everyone. Thank you all so much for coming out. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, welcome. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Yes, lights. All right, welcome. Happy Memo Pub Day. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're really excited for tonight's event. My name is Amali, and I'm the events director here at Books Are Magic. We are so excited to have Rachel Dodes, Mechling, and Katherine Rosman with us tonight to celebrate the launch of Rachel and Lauren's much anticipated novel, The Memo. But before we get officially started, I just have a few logistics to point out for how tonight's event is going to go. First up, we will be doing a hand-raised audience Q&A towards the end of the discussion, so please start thinking of questions to ask and hold on to them. After the talk tonight, Rachel and Lauren will be around to sign and personalize your books right in this area over here. We'll let you know where and when to start lining up for that. And finally, if you're joining us virtually on the YouTube live stream, we would love to encourage you to buy a copy of The Memo online using the link in the live stream description. Now, let's get into this. J. Courtney Sullivan called this novel a, quote, total joyride, and it is just that. An exploration of friendship and community, love and ambition, and what might happen if you had the chance to redo your what-ifs. This is the book everyone will be talking about this summer, and we're so excited to talk about it with the authors tonight. Rachel Dodes is a freelance cultural writer. She's a regular contributor to Vanity Fair, and her work has also appeared in Town & Country, Elle, Esquire, and the New York Times, among other publications. She was a staff writer at the Wall Street Journal, where she covered fashion and film. She lives in New York with her husband, son, and dog. Lauren Mechling is a senior editor at The Guardian US and has written for the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Vogue, where she wrote a regular book column. She's also a young adult novelist, a graduate of Harvard College. She lives in Brooklyn, New York, with her husband and 2 children. And as I mentioned earlier, Katherine Rosman joins Rachel and Lauren in conversation tonight. Katie is a New York Times reporter, a Wall Street Journal alumna, and the author of the memoir, If You Knew Susie, which is also available for purchase at the register where you checked in. Okay, that's all for me. Without any further delay, please join me in giving Rachel, Lauren, and Katie a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Wow, thank you. And we should, thanks to Books Are Magic for letting us have this party in your beautiful bookstore. We also want to thank our editor, Sarah Stein, who is somewhere, and all of the incredible, there you are, and everyone at Harper, Daniel and Heather and Lisa. Thanks for helping us bring this book into the world.
Dream team, thank you.
Dream team. Thank you to Grania, who is somewhere else. I don't know. My head is in the clouds, but Grania's our agent. Okay, but she's not an agent. She's just a superhero.
The standard to which we all should aspire.
Yeah, so we'll probably get into that a little bit if we have a chance to.
Yeah.
But she saved our lives. And and Julia Carr, our friend, who is the person responsible for all those delicious treats in the back somewhere here. So thank you for doing that, Julia.
And thank you to Katie Rosman.
Of
my
course,
dear friend.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. This is such an achievement to celebrate, writing a book and seeing it all the way into the world and into a bookstore like this. I hope you guys are feeling great. Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Weirdly great. Yeah. The world has not been mean to us today. It's been a really nice day.
Well, good. You guys are the brides today. So, all right, so let's get started and talk a bit about the book and the process and your friendship, which really is just such a really special beating heart at the center of the book itself and today. And I think it's worth celebrating also. So we'll get to that. But let's start with, give us a, as much as you can, a no spoiler elevator pitch description of the book.
Has anyone heard the expression, I didn't get the memo? It's a book about a woman whose sense that she didn't get the memo becomes increasingly heavy on her shoulders. She's going through life, watching everyone else around her seemingly killing it and winning, and she's just feeling like, why didn't I learn, which doors to open, which things to say yes to say no to? How am I here now, 35 years old, with a cheating boyfriend, living in a city that she doesn't want to be living in, and having to go to her college reunion and not wanting to have to show face and say, tell people what she's up to and what she has failed to achieve at this point in her life.
And then she goes to the college reunion and discovers that, in fact, there is a memo that she failed to get, that everybody else did get. And she gets a chance to redo her worst mistakes and live her life according to the memo, but at what cost?
So let's sort of go back to the beginning of your process here. How, did the idea for the book come first, or did you say, let's write a book together and we'll come up with an idea? Or did you say, here's the idea, should we do it together?
I think simultaneously, I think Rachel and I have Rachel proposed to me. I was on book tour for my last book, and we were becoming closer and closer as friends and like not thought partners, but we realized no thought partners. But we realized we made each other crack up a lot. So I think we had said we could probably do something fun together, and then we'd been playing around with a bunch of ideas, and then the idea for the memo actually came in a more mundane, depressing fashion, where I was not wanting to go to my college reunion, thinking I cannot face my ex-boyfriend who works for The Simpsons, and I was very underused freelance writer at the time. But so Rachel and I we were experimenting with a bunch of notions, and I said, wouldn't that be funny if there really was a memo? And then it snowballed, and then we actually kind of, the way you see on true crime shows where people, put Post-it notes on walls.
You guys were like Carrie in Homeland, with history.
Yes. We knew we wanted to work together on something, and at first we thought we would do kind of a scripted podcast, and we had a meeting scheduled for Friday the 13th of 2020, which was an ominous day. Of March. Friday the 13th of March 2020, which was a scary day even without a global pandemic. But the meeting obviously got canceled, the earth stood still, and we were like, okay, this meeting is probably not going to get rescheduled for a really long time. What can we do together that doesn't involve a podcasting company getting behind us? And Lauren and I had talked about the concept of the memo, and we were like, okay, we could write this together and escape and do this without any outside intervention.
Yeah, you don't need a dude who works at Spotify to give you the green light to write a novel. You can just do it.
You do not need a dude at Spotify to do that, thank goodness. With all due respect to the dudes from Spotify. So how'd you do it? How do you write a book together? Did you write it during the pandemic?
Yeah.
So how do you sit on Zoom? Do you you write one part and send it to her? How'd it work?
Rachel wrote the first 150 pages. No, I'm just kidding. No. Everyone asks that. I think, but everyone here probably has ever had, an back and forth editorial process or a Google Doc. Basically, we just kept taking turns jumping in, and I think the in and out.
So, on the screen together ever?
No. It was mostly, I'm more of a morning person. Rachel has a better sleep hygiene. So I would, go in generally in the morning. I think the fact that it was really written primarily in this time when I was living in a house with, it was, super duper pandemic time, right? And I was Zoom schooling my children who were here, hi. But I only had tiny windows of opportunity, and so did Rachel. So we kind of had to like milk them for what they were worth, but also I think having like the limited time availability actually lent itself to a collaboration, because we just, it was like a baton that we kept passing, as opposed to someone holding onto something and saying, I'm still working on this.
Yeah, we committed to devoting like at least 1 hour a day to it.
Both of us,
And sometimes we'd be in the document at the same time, and we'd be in like all caps, hi Lauren, hi Rachel. And other times like she'd be up, like she keeps weird hours, so she'd be up at like 3 in the morning, and I'd get a text in the morning, oh, I worked on chapter 1, like take a look, and so then I would go over it. But we had an outline to start, which we developed mostly over the phone.
Developed and then tossed.
We needed to know where we were going, and I have ADD. I need like structure in my life, or else I'll like write myself into a hole. So we needed to know, and it changed and evolved, but like we needed to know the basics of where we were going.
And
wait, and you should, sorry, but we also, I feel like it's important to add, in addition to both of us, going in every day, we also talked on the phone.
We talked on the phone,
every
yeah.
day.
Lauren likes to say that like 95% of the writing like involved just like shooting the shit and like talking about other things, and it would wind up somehow in the book.
Yeah, it's basically a lot of subtweets in the book.
well, but it's part. I mean, that's part of. I mean, the book it's fun. It's lively. It moves. It feels. I mean, everything that you're saying, I think, really worked for the book. Having not known that when I read it, but and how did you get a singular voice when there's two of you writing, this protagonist, Jenny? Like, how did you do it?
Like, looking back at the book, I don't even know what I wrote anymore and what Lauren wrote. Like, we just edited each other mercilessly and had like a judgment-free zone and like an offense-free zone. We started our careers together at the Wall Street Journal with you too, Katie. We were all there, and we were edited. Like,
We got used to criticism.
We got used to it, and so like we're not
being
precious.
rewritten.
We're not precious about our writing, and which helped a lot. And the fact that we were work friends before we were actually friends, we had that trust. So we, I would write something, she would go in, change it, and it was always like, in the spirit of making it better. And if there was ever something that we wanted to keep, we would discuss it and figure out what worked best for the story.
And I think every sentence you wrote, I like tweaked, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we came. I mean, if anyone reads the book and you feel like it feels, herky jerky, let me know, because I really, we just kept rewriting it over and over and over together, and that's what happens when two people just keep fiddling.
Did you guys disagree about anything?
There were like little things along the way, like
What?
the sheep cam.
We can disagree on that. The world disagreed on that.
Yeah.
Tell us what that is.
I'm really sad that the sheep cam is no longer there.
Well, this is your opportunity to
We had a love interest named Bran, who was a Welsh sheep farmer who was making cheese and had a live stream from his Welsh farm, and Jenny would watch the cheese making from afar, and there was a lot of complications with this. It's better that we cut.
But Lauren, you would want to.
It's not that I didn't want it, but I do think I think the world wasn't ready for Bran and the sheep cam. That was
All right, good.
Yeah.
You can put it in the sequel.
yeah.
So, all right, so you write the book and tell us about the path to publication, which, if I remember, being in regular touch with Rachel, was not
It was not a straight
paved
line.
in, gold.
It never is, though,
Yeah.
and so there were some naysayers in the beginning. We had
And naysayers.
and naysayers and naysayers, but we had different representation who on the same day decided they no longer.
Grania, look at her face.
Grania's like, oh no, they're telling the story. So we were basically dumped by our former agents on the same day, which it was the best thing that ever happened to us because what happened that night, we were so devastated, and then all of a sudden it became really funny to me, and I was like, Lauren, I'm gonna send out this tweet, is that okay? And it said, my writing partner and I were really excited to submit our manuscript to our agents. We thought it would generate a strong response, and it did. Today, we both got cut loose. And this was back before Elon Musk owned Twitter, and it was when there was like a big book Twitter, involvement, and people were responding to that tweet and being like, no way, you gotta meet my agent, you gotta meet it. And through a mutual friend, I got connected to, Grania,
She didn't blink.
who just believed in this project from day one, and like, I'm very emotional. She's just like, we dedicated the book to her, and it wouldn't be here without her belief in it.
Everyone, can you applaud for Grania?
Really important, it's important for people to talk about failure and
That's what the book is about too.
and about not letting it stop you, having, it not be the end of the story, but just, a chapter in it. And it's so easy in the world we live in and with social media to think that like everybody's doing it and making it happen, and I think it's really important and to sort of acknowledge that there can be hiccups and you still can be really successful as you guys are. So thank you for sharing that with us all. Really, I mean it. And now it's also going to be a TV show, right?
We hope so.
So tell us about that.
So it was optioned by Whip and Lean Machine, which is run by Mark Roybal, who produced Mayor of Easttown, and Aline Brush McKenna, who wrote the script to Devil Wears Prada and did Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. They're amazing, and so they optioned it, and there's a screenwriter now who wrote the pilot. Her name's Dana Calvo. She's fabulous, and hopefully it will go to series. We don't know, these things are always, you don't know for sure, but.
And when you get your first royalty check after it clears the bank and it's canceled, will you send a copy to that agent? I mean, I'm just a spiteful person, so.
Yeah, you live positive.
Yeah. I know Rachel well enough to know she's like, write that down, that's happening. And then so once you got the book done, is that the end of sort of the challenges of the process?
I hope the challenges are it was challenging, and I will say this, I've published, I don't even know, because I've ghostwritten, I've co-written, I've published books online, I've written a lot of books. This has been the most delicious experience, and so it's funny because we did a thing the other night, and someone was asking us, why would anyone want a memo? Like, aren't all of like the hardships actually, the best part, or like the way to set you up for happiness? And I think there is an element of that. So all I wish to say though, it's been a really, we've been getting very nice feedback from the world. And you said, can you tell us about
when I was leaving work tonight, I told my editor what I was doing, and she said, what's the book? And I told her it's called The Memo, and I showed her a picture of the cover on my phone, and she said, I saw someone on the subway reading that. That was me. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So the protagonist is named Jenny Green. Mm-hmm. And tell me about picking the name, because I love that it's not like, Madison, like it's just I think I grew up with the Jenny Green, possibly literally. Tell me about the thought process between picking that name and what the discussions were.
She's an every woman, and like we like the sound of Jenny Green, and she's green, you know, she's just kind of figuring shit out, and her last name was different for a while. I don't know why we called her Jenny Kugel. I changed that, thankfully. I think that was Lauren's idea.
Google? I do like Google. Well, I like that. I mean, it's just a great sort of simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think there are a lot of bizarre names in the book. A lot of the B characters. You know, there's like the obnoxious woman who she went to college with named Alexandra, but now goes by Alessandra. You know,
Right, and she's just Jenny.
Yeah,
Right?
she's Jenny.
And I think our fabulous editor, Sarah Stein, was like, Google, I don't know. And, like, and Lauren and I were like talking about last names, and we both said Green, like at the same time. And we're like, okay, that's it, Jenny Green.
Really?
Yeah.
And what are some of the other names? I like talking about names.
Oh, interesting. What are the names? Well, there's Hal. Hal is the nitwit boyfriend who she lives with.
How'd you come up with Hal
He
As
was
a
just-
person or as a name?
as the name?
He was just a Hal, like he was just a man bun. Like,
Yeah, he's a man bun. He's very handsome. He's like the kind of guy who could be called Hal and still be sexy. You know, he was like obnoxiously Hal.
So good looking that he could
So
overcome
good
the name.
looking. He could be called Hal, and he would still just be like such a painful person for Jenny to be living with, and know that it was like slipping through her fingers because he was just did not give a damn.
Would you guys just like laugh and howl as you discuss the book? I mean, was it fun?
It was so fun. I mean, the best parts of it was like when I would wake up and Lauren would have like reworked like a paragraph that I did and put in like little notes like ha, you know, like if we were trying to crack each other up with our ideas.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I mean, what a fun sort of project to work on during the pandemic when, you know, there was so many difficulties, you know,
Yeah.
for in all sorts of ways. And what, like, are you gonna work on another project together?
Well, we're now working on a sort of related, and it's been very exciting, a different kind of project.
Sort of a spontaneous.
It was very spontaneous, basically, as of what, like
Friday.
3 days ago, we somehow,
We birthed a Substack
Yeah.
because we were like the only two people who didn't have one.
yeah, but it came from, we had written a humor piece that we both, I would say, 9, 10 out of 10, like we liked it a lot,
We
right?
thought it was pretty funny. We showed it to people who like know from such things, who thought it was really funny. And you know, we were just like coming up with ideas to promote the book, and like the team at Harper was like, you guys should do a humor piece, and so we did it. And we realized quickly that there are only 2 places that publish humor pieces anymore, and it's like the New Yorker Shouts and Murmurs column or McSweeney's. So we submitted to both, and
They were both responsive and polite.
like in 3 weeks we got like 2 really nice emails saying like nothing, like there was no actionable feedback. It was just like, thank you so much for sending this, we hope to see more, we're not going to run this, you know. So we were like, what do we do with this? We don't want it to just like sit on our computer. So we started thinking about like supply and demand, and there must be so many people
Maybe
out there
all
with
the
like
funny
who are really
women.
funny, so many funny women with funny things to say, and just only 2 places to publish, and you know, why not just like put it here? So we did it, and it's
Yeah,
been-
so we're now humor editors. So we
Yes.
have one
So
team.
you're soliciting material.
Well,
from
we're
others.
asking our friends. We have one coming out tomorrow by a woman I knew when a Vogue writer who's also hilarious, and so we're gonna be doing that for a while, and it's the most like organic, not I mean, I know anyone here who follows me on social media, I apologize and thank you for bearing with me, because this has been not organic. I've been like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And this is, I think we started with 7 followers, and we have now like 17 It's so
What's the name of the Substack of the site?
It's called Funny Girls, and we have an avatar, of course, of Barbara Streisand.
I like that, and it works with Google somehow too. Well, what we get, I think the elements and the themes of female friendship are really important in this book and in your partnership and in this discussion. So how thoughtful were you about that in making that such an important theme and relationship in the book? Or, tell me a bit about your thoughts on female friendship and how you hold that.
Well, my last book, it's funny, it was all about like the underside of how could she, it was about female friendship, but it was about how nasty women are with each other. And this, I think, is quite the opposite. And I just feel like my friendship with Rachel and the book, they fed each other. Rachel and I just became more and more close with each other as we were working on it. I don't think either of us is very good at sex scenes, so it just became like this was not this. I think that was kind of how we compensated for the fact that we have like a man bun guy, but we're not going much further with him. But here's a woman who clearly needs to find her place in the world, and that ends up being the people who she trusts and loves, who are, basically one best friend, but. I do think it's just interesting, as Rachel and I, we've known each other since we were in our 20s, but we knew each other in like a pre-pandemic work. The three of us worked together, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, we all respected each other and had salads together sometimes for lunch, but we're, on our computers, like all reporting to the same man, right? Literally the same man. And as Rachel and I now have loosened up and gotten to know each other, I think our true friendship is reflected in the book, and maybe working on the book and thinking more about the power of loving a woman in your life has helped us just become really close.
And maybe a relationship that doesn't get enough attention in literature.
I think so, yeah. I think we wanted to explore the changing dynamics of female friendships as women get older, and people might like drop out of your life through no fault of your own or through no fault of their own, just circumstantially. And there's this interesting problem, which is that everyone says that relationships and friendships is what makes for a happy life. But when you're climbing the corporate ladder and like killing it at work, it's exactly those relationships that you have to sacrifice.
And it's hard, just parenthood, and friendship can feel not optional, but it can be the first thing that you cut out because it feels like a luxury.
Yep.
And it is a luxury, for better or for worse.
And I think our lives are set up where even the friendships that we do maintain are, there's just something about, I just think about like the wine bar friendship, like the friend who if you've cut everyone else out because you don't have time, but there's like even that one person you make plans with, you see them twice a year in a wine bar, and it's like this frenetic catch up, but that's so different from the actual like nourishing quality of a daily, just ticker tape, your emotional ticker tape, day by day by day, and that is so rare.
Yeah, and you might not see each other all the time, but we have like ongoing text chains, and so like it's like you're just like keeping up with each other.
Yeah, technology does help.
Yeah,
a lot.
it does.
One thing I was thinking about from the book is right around the time that she gets the memo. She has a discussion, and this person says to her, it's not that you've made all the wrong decisions, it's that you haven't made decisions at all. And I really thought that was, rather profound, and it got me thinking a lot about, kind of inertia in our lives, and can you, tell me a bit about, I don't know if that just happened organically and there's not much more to say about it than that, but how did you come to sort of think about her problem is that not that she made the wrong decisions, but that she didn't make decisions. She kind of let life happen.
Yeah, I think like the wrong decision is making no decisions, and she just kind of like thought things would get better on their own. And when that's happening to a friend, I think it's one of the most frustrating things to watch, when you know someone who has so much potential, is so brilliant and can do so much, but is just kind of like stuck. And so we wanted to show someone who's in that position.
I think also something I've been thinking about, I mean, I think Rachel and I are both wired, I mean, maybe you as well, Katie, we're kind of hardworking, neurotic, people pleasing. And something I was thinking, I mean, our character, could be our age, we're in our mid-40s, she's in her mid-30s, but something I think about is, in a way, the way our society is structured, you don't really have to make decisions for the first few decades of your life. I mean, everyone kind of has the memo, right? Like, in terms of doing well at school, not getting arrested, like not shoplifting, getting into a good college, getting a good entry-level job. Like, there aren't that many alternative paths, right? But then I think that's where our character starts to feel just really confused and full of shame when she's past that, when she's done all the kind of right things, but then I think more imagination and creativity is required to kind of sustain success in our society.
Like, she needed the outline.
Yeah.
And it is hard when sort of the world stops having structure for you. I think that's a really good point. So I wanted to ask each of you, if there was a memo for you that you missed at the beginning of this process, what would it say? What would you do different? What would you, tell me about your memo?
About the
Process
Yeah.
of the book. I think I would have been less hard on myself and just believed in our concept more, because I think there were moments when
where you were like, this is the
I was
the
like,
stop.
Lauren, like, this is not a thing, and we'll try one more thing and see if it goes, but like, maybe the world is telling us that this is not. And I was like, I don't know if it's it might not be for everybody, but like, it has to be for somebody, like, and so then we just kept going, and it wound up working, so I guess the memo would have told me to listen to my
I was the
inner voice.
cheerleader in our partnership.
Yeah, I'm like such a Debbie Downer.
It's a good yin yang though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And what about you? What would your memo be?
I mean, I it's hard to answer because I want to say, like, I wish I had known that this is going to sound so. I wish I had known that I could have worked with someone like Grania earlier on, and I didn't, and I didn't have that, and it has made the world of difference. But also at the same time, it's been so satisfying that, like, maybe Rachel and I needed to feel like we were alone in the wild to make something we worked so hard on and try to make it as good as we could, and so to not have the comfort of having, an agent who I felt comfortable texting at 6 a.m. on a Sunday, etc. Sorry, Rania.
Well, why don't we give you all a chance to ask some questions? Does anybody have anything they would like to know about the book, about the authors, about their friendship, their
Beauty routines?
their skincare, their dark secrets? There's really nothing off limits. Yes?
So I have heard lots about your relationship and the friendship, but there's another part of the book that's about optimization and this feeling that you have to be living your best life and getting every single minute out of everything. And I kind of wonder, in the process of writing, did you change how you felt about that? Was that something that you realized you needed to take a step back from? Is that something that you realize there is some value to? I'm just curious about that.
Let me repeat the question so everyone can hear. it's a great question, a great point about the role of optimization in our lives as, women and as people, and certainly in the book. And did you all, as you wrote about that theme, did you come to see its value? Did you come to see the way it can control, too much? Like, what do you think about it now? Have your feelings about optimization changed?
I think that's a very good question, Sarah, and I think we wanted to address the whole societal obsession with optimization and how that manifests itself in social media and everybody performing their best lives and how that makes other people feel less than. And that is really the villain of this book, I think. We didn't have any other people who were all good or all bad. It was just the fact that Jenny was not optimized and she was shamed for it because she wasn't as ambitious as her friends.
And I think, to get autobiographical about it, I think Rachel and I were at our least optimized, selves when we started working on this.
Really
we
true,
were
yeah.
really, I think we've been beat. We were disasters.
We were disasters.
We were both very successful young and middle young women, and then suddenly we were moms. I was working at a feminist organization, and then when I had to start doing Zoom school with my children during pandemic, I was let go because I wasn't able to be on Microsoft Teams calls all day, right? So I was feeling really sore. I think Rachel was feeling sore. So I think this was, in a way, was our playing around with and maybe curing ourselves a little bit of our self-hatred that we were both feeling at the time.
Yeah, I think before the pandemic, I had a lot of freelance work coming in, and then it just kind of started to dry up, and I was like, what am I doing? How did I not get the memo? Everybody else has it, and and so we were thinking a lot about that as we were writing.
Yeah, we were not optimized, but we
wrote
a book.
Look at you now. Yes.
Who inspired you to make this book?
What, love?
Who inspired you to make this book?
What inspired me to make the
Who?
book? Who inspired me?
Yeah, I think
My daughter, Louisa.
And my son, AJ.
What about Henry? What about Henry?
What about Henry?
What about Henry? Henry, you're inspiring too.
Yes. Yes.
As a fellow neurotic people pleaser, I was just wondering, what do you hope that neurotic people pleasing women will get out of this? What's your top 3 things that I will get out of this?
What will neurotic, people-pleasing women who are well represented in the audience, I feel, and up here.
Raise your hand. Okay, good for you.
What do you think they'll get out of the book, and what are maybe 3 things?
Or 1.
Or
I don't want to put it too much on you.
I think just being, I don't know, I think I hope if you read the book, you'll have a harder time taking yourself as seriously, and maybe you'll want to turn the world off for a little bit and let a bird, I don't know, swoop down on your head, or I've been thinking a lot about, it's gotten a lot of, it's gotten a little dark and heavy, but nice, where I think the book has made me think, especially as I'm thinking about the book after having written it, as I'm, writing pieces about it, I'm just thinking more and more about, the word deathbed. It's more in my head, what are the things that I will think was a waste of my time? What are the things that I will be happy that I decided to do? So.
Nobody's on their deathbed thinking, I wish I worked more, but I
But
think
my boss is here, so I do want to.
I think it's an appreciation of failure and the way those decisions that look bad might actually help you grow.
Yes, AJ?
If you would make the second book, like the Memo 2, what would it be called?
If you were gonna make the book the Memo 2, what would you call it?
That's a great question. Maybe the memo too.
I think he'd like a little bit more creativity.
We'll get back to you.
Your mom will get back to you.
Oh,
on
so
that.
it's called We'll Get Back to You.
Any other questions? Well, you're welcome to. But does anyone who is not a child of Rachel? Yes.
You guys are cut off. Did you know what the ending of the book was going to be when you started writing it?
Did you know what the ending was before you started writing it?
Well, we thought the ending was going to be in Wales with the sheep. It didn't turn out that way. We spent a lot of time like figuring out how to tie everything up. I think that was the hardest part about writing, and the most revisions were the ending. Yeah.
Just really quickly, so I've only just got my copy that arrived today, so I haven't read the whole book, but I wanted to ask,
You read the first page?
I'd skimmed it on the way here. Looked amazing. But no, so much of what you've talked about has been very autobiographical, and for both of you that's based in being similarly aged women with children and friends and family, and I was wondering what went behind the decision to make the protagonist someone without children, which it sounds like they're not. I'm just wondering why you chose that moment in life.
Why did you make your protagonist, though the impulses and insecurities and things that drive her are similar to those that have occurred in your life, why did you make her different from you in other ways, including especially she doesn't have a family, doesn't have children?
Well, I think she is kind of at the cusp of 36, which is where you kind of lock into adulthood. That's what we sort of envisioned with this book. And it has failed to launch. And I know from my own, I didn't have a kid until I was 37. And, you start to feel like, oh my God, like it might be too late. And I think we wanted to have someone who has that pressure on her, and that's also part of the whole living your best life societal pressure. Everyone's got their kids on Instagram, and she's kind of just like struggling with this terrible job in Pittsburgh and living with this horrible boyfriend who doesn't ever want to have kids.
Yes.
Hi, I'm very excited to read it. I love the idea of a memo as the vehicle, and I'm just curious, in your own sort of journalistic experience, were you recipients of many memos, or is it more like a nostalgic thing of like the Diana Vreelands of the past, and how much is like the physical memo within the text itself? I think it's a great vehicle.
What experience? How do you have a feeling of romantic nostalgia for memos as a general matter?
Like the things that you see in offices from the 80s?
Like an actual memo.
An actual memo.
There is an actual memo in the book.
There is an actual memo in the book, yes.
But the memo, as we envisioned it, is like there's an app for that.
Yes. But I will say, because I'm thinking about this as a journalist, I did get an important memo when I was right after school. When I was graduating college, it was still the 90s, and if you wanted to go into journalism, if you were me, you ended up answering men's telephones. And there was a woman, your friend, our friend, Alexandra Jacobs, who is a writer at the New York Times, who I worked with, and I remember she took me aside, and she basically took me by the shoulders and said, if you want to work in this industry, get the hell out of New York City, go somewhere smaller where you can actually be a writer, and I did. I went to Canada and was a reporter, and in that way, like, she did change my life.
She gave you the memo.
She gave me a memo. Yes. So thank you, Alexandra.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She's also a book critic for the New York Times, so it's good to say that.
Love her.
She's amazing. Any other questions? Yes, way in the back.
How difficult, if at all, was it to write the memo while also kind of having the counter argument that everything happens for a reason?
How hard was it to write the memo and contend with the counter argument that everything happens for a reason, that the failure leads to growth and different and greater success while you're writing a book that's actually, no, you can go redo your bad decisions, lack of decisions?
Well, I don't want to give the book away, but I will say those two things are they are bedfellows, right? So it wasn't that. I don't think we were writing a book whose core was like ran in contrast to what we actually believed is the way the world works, right?
But you did have to reconcile. You know, you found a way to make those things coexist.
Yes, I think so. Ultimately, I mean, that was the goal, and that was always the challenge, like acknowledging that the mistakes serve a purpose, but you know, the perspective of the characters don't always see that.
But yeah, it's a very, I mean, I feel like it's an emotional book. I mean, we were really careful, I think, or that was something that I care about when I write. You know, not just saying this happened, and then there was this neat app and neat memo. Like I think on every single page you're feeling the shame or the envy or the happiness of Jenny, and I think those kinds of feelings are, you know, they can exist on either side of this dichotomy that you're talking about. Whether or not you feel like there is a memo and you need to get ahead and you're bitter that you're not getting ahead, or if you're more loose and zen and you believe in fate and reason. Either way, if you're aware and a sensitive person, the feelings are still there. So.
Let's take one more question.
Is there any aspect of the book that has a part in there where things just happen randomly, that there's like sort of this existential sort of point that there isn't a reason behind it, or there isn't a memo, or just that anything could happen?
Is there any part of the book that is sort of a random occurrence that doesn't necessarily fit either of these paradigms that we've been talking about?
Well, a lot of, and this isn't an answer, but I think a lot of, you know, the way we conceive of it, a lot of the edicts within the memo are not things that are so big and basic, like marry Prince William or go to, you know, Duke, but they're things like go on the first car, or like wait 2 subway stops before you get on the train. They're like little things that kind of we built in these domino effects that then would lead to bigger changes and differences in this woman's life.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing all this, for writing this. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you to Books Are Magic for sharing this beautiful space. I hope everyone will buy the book. Perhaps you'll buy a second book and send it to somebody else. But even if you don't do that, please tell your friends about it and share on all your channels.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy to have been here, and congratulations to you both.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I'm gonna just echo pretty much everything that Katie just wonderfully said. We have additional copies available for purchase at the register where you checked in, along with copies of Katie's book, If You Knew Susie, and Lauren's previous novel, How Could She? So I definitely recommend checking those out as well. These two will be around to sign and personalize your books. That's just gonna be happening right over in front of these shelves right here. So we're gonna ask that you all line up down the center aisle, come over to this side, and once you get the chairs cleared out of the way, you can line up along these shelves as well. Please make sure you grab all of your personal belongings with you so you can start to break down the space. And please make sure that your cups end up in the trash can next to the table where the food is. And speaking of which, there is plenty of food left over to enjoy, so please help yourselves. Thank you all again for coming out. Let's give these three one last round of applause.